Hey, last night I did a video showing kind of my French wheel setup, but then I started thinking about it and, there's a lot of people trying to start out in pipe making and, maybe they need ideas or don't know where to start out. So I figured I'd do kind of a little walkthrough of my mini shop. And this little shop here, this is only about 6 foot wide by about 11.5 foot deep. And I have this in kind of the downstairs room. So you can see it kind of joins another room in here. I still have, we moved in probably about 4 months ago. So I still have a little bit of junk. I need to figure out where, find a home for it. But this little end over here is my pipe making area. Here I have a shelf with some tools and, stuff like that. But I'll go ahead and do a walkthrough, and this isn't for people that already have their pipe shop set up and really know what they're doing, or maybe it might give them ideas. But really, this is more for people that are starting out and just might want some ideas. But in my shop here, I'll kind of go around clockwise here. But I have this is my metal lathe. And what I'll also do is I'll give some estimated prices on things, because I know when I'm starting out, my question was, how much does this stuff cost? I mean, what am I getting into here? And of course, once you get into pipe making, is kind of a slippery slope, because a lot of the machinery, the prices add up. But I've kind of slowly added machinery over, my serious machinery over probably about 2-3 years. But first, here I have, this is a Grizzly G4000 metal lathe. And these, the prices have gone up. I think I paid about $1,750 for this. And then I got, of course, like little add-ons like this little quick connect where I can quickly, put different tools on. And then here behind the metal lathe, I have just a little tray where I have my live center here. And of course I have my chuck on right now, but this is also where I have my Briar Chuck. And this I got from rawcrafted.com. This is an amazing chuck, because this actually clamps into my existing chuck. So you don't have to actually take this whole thing off. This just fits into the jaws of this. Super cool, kind of solution for that. And then back here, this is just a little cheapy, probably $10 plastic thing that I keep some miscellaneous, like, for this for my chuck. And then back here, I actually just put this up. These are all the tools that I quickly have to access for the lathe, different Allen keys. I have my crescent wrench here or my open end wrench for actually locking this back and forth. And then of course here, and this bar here, I think this was like less than $20 at Lowe's, something like this. Then I have a little light. I have this one with a magnet on the end for checking, my drilling as I'm going. But I like it's a magnet, so I just stick up on top of this cabinet. And these cabinets were super cheap at Harbor Freight. I think they were like $60 a piece, something like that. So that was pretty cool. Here is my workbench. There's my French wheel. And if you look at my videos, I have a video that goes a little more in depth into this. But what I did is I set up the this is a Grizzly motor. I think this motor was like $180, something like that. But before, it was hooked into a power strip under there. So what I did is I hooked up this little power switch there, and then also put in a little Y connector. So when I hit the power, it goes to my light and the motor. But then I have a quick connect in case something goes wrong. You just slap that and it goes off. And this workbench here, This was a Harbor Freight, and I think it was 159. And it's hardwood. You know, it's not, you know, top of the line, but for what I needed, actually worked out perfect. If you get one of these Harbor Freight tables, what I do recommend is when you put them together, use tight bond on any wood-to-wood connections. It just makes them way more sturdy. So I just glued up the whole thing. And then, of course, for my French wheel, I did a cutout so I had better clearance, and so I could also use my buffing wheels there. And then here, there's another one of those Harbor Freight, you know, $60 cabinets. But here I have, like, you know, my Briar. What I do is I stack my Briar as I get it in. So the Briar at the bottom here, this has been aging for about 3 months. Most of the Briar I think is pretty dry when it comes in, but I like to age it at least about 3 months, sometimes 4 months, just to make sure that it's completely dry. And this is where I do a lot of my finish work, stuff like that. And you'll notice underneath here I have a snake of tubing. I'm going to kind of skip ahead here and show you what this is. Well, this works with this tubing. You can see the connection down there. It's called an Swan Quick Connect. And what that is, that's a connector that goes into my dust collection system. And this is a Shop Fox W1826. But what I did is I put on a 1 micron filter. This is a Dust Right 1 micron filter. So I can actually work on the French wheel generating tons of fine dust, and I get almost no dust in the room. This I think was like about 180, something like that. The Dust Right, I added this on afterwards. This Dust Right, honestly, it was close to $300 for that. But since I have like a room in here, I wanted to keep the dust to a minimum. So to me, the $300 for this, and this thing will last a long time, it was worth it. And it has this crank here where you can actually, and what the crank does, it has inside like these little fingers that rub these ridges. Knocks all the, you know, dust stuck in there, down in there to keep the filter going. Let's see what else in here. Well, that's about it. Oh, here, let me show you the Swan Quick Connect. And of course, that snakes goes all the way up here into the dust collector system. But what I like about this system, right now, it is kind of, a lot of people would say, oh, you know, this hosing is way too long. It's going to cut down on the suction. For what I do, it doesn't, I mean, it works perfect. It works really good. Sure, I might be losing a little bit of suction, but for what I need, it sucks every single bit out of the French wheel. So instead of doing all these kind of connections, because I looked at putting, you know, the tubing, the PVC tubing or clear tubing running behind all the machines. But since my shop is so small, I can just come down, give it a turn, disconnect. You can see it has this gasket there. But now I can walk over to this machine, boom, turn on my vacuum system. It sucks everything out of my belt sander. Quick connect, and I can go over to my belt sander here and connect it in. So for me and the size of my shop, I might cut maybe 3-4 foot off of this just to kind of minimize it, just because right now it is a huge kind of snake thing. But it works really, really good. And I really like this system. And it's Swan. I believe it's IZZYSWAN. But he's the one that came up with this quick connect system. I'm just going to push this stuff in here for now and worry about that later. But a real nice system. And then over here, I have another one of the Harbor Freight kind of $160 tables. And here I have my and I have a lot of Win products just because It's actually decent quality. You know, it's not the highest quality you can get, but I found that it's actually pretty darn good. People say, oh, it's made in China. Yeah, so is Craftsman. So is almost every brand you can get. But I really like this company, and their customer support's really good. This, I think, was about $75. And this is where I kind of rough in my stems. And like, here's one pipe I'm working on right now. So what I'll do is I'll take a flat file, put that in the end here so I can really see it, and then I'll just kind of come in, I'll quickly rough it in. I won't do any of the finish work on the stem on this, but just for roughing it in. And then here is, I think this was like 140. This is a Win belt sander. This is where I kind of really square up my briar blocks to make sure everything is 90-degree angle. And what I don't use as much anymore is a drill press, but still I think it's good to have in your shop. This was probably about 360, something like that. Maybe it was less. I could be getting some of my prices confused here, but that's a pretty good drill press. And then here I have my Win bandsaw for, of course, cutting briar blocks and all that kind of stuff. And what I did is around the back, you can see where I connected in my 4-inch tubing, where I have my Swan quick connect. And for additional dust collection, I have this Win up here. And I think this was $130. It was a really cheap price. And it has, on this side, it has, this is I believe a 4 or 5 micron pre-filter, but then inside it has a 1 micron filter. So this really kind of cuts down on the dust in the room. And this one came with this remote control, which is nice. So and you can also set it up on a timer if you want it to run for, like, you know, an hour after you've been working here, just to clear all the dust out. But this is really kind of my setup, and it's pretty compact. Let me show you a couple other things if anyone is still watching, if you're interested. But for pipe making, here's a few things that I have. With this Harbor Freight, it's got, you know, a lot of the wood shop kind of tabletops have this, the vise on the end. Here I have, and what I did is I drilled out, this is for shaping tenons. This is where I shape all my stems, or the final, with sandpaper, is I lock it in here. So then I can sit with, okay, imagine I have both hands, but you're kind of going back and forth with strips, cut strips of sandpaper, to really kind of get that nice smooth shaping of the stem. And here, this actually fits exactly into the bowls of a point, you know, a 3/4 inch bowl. And I'll clamp this in to then take sandpaper to, you know, fine tune the shapes of the outside of the bowls, or also to kind of shape the shank a little bit. And you'll see down here I have a piece of glass that's glued to a piece of oak. Yeah, I got a crack in it. But what I use this, I find this really helpful. Say if you have like a shank or something, every once in a while, even if you're using a lathe, sometimes you'll have a little gap on one side or the other. What I'll do is I'll use this perfectly flat glass surface and a piece of sandpaper on it for really fine-tuning an angle. If somehow, by some way, it got off, having this perfectly flat glass surface with a piece of, like, you know, 1,000 grit sandpaper, you can then get a perfectly good connection between your stem and your shank. Doesn't happen often, but I do like having that in case I ever need to do any kind of fine-tune adjustments on it. And this is a little piece of, I think, mahogany that I have. But this is what I use. It's just kind of like a little rest when I'm working on pipes, or excuse me, on stems. And over here, these are just cheap little cabinets. This is actually like a big rubber eraser. And this is just for cleaning off when you're sandpaper, whether it's a belt sander or this, while it's spinning, you just go through here and it cleans all of the dust and everything out and really cleans up and makes your sandpaper like new again. And then here I have different drawers where here I have a lot of my faux ivory pieces that are already kind of squared off and ready for a pipe. Next drawer, of course, this is different pieces of ebonite and acrylic and different stem materials. Here, I believe these are all of my bands for like when I do bangs and have like a band on it. These are all my, this is Triple E, white diamond, and buffing wax. And up here, military mount tools. But that is the shop. And, I hope this helps some people out with their planning of their shop and what they might do. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm not an expert, but I've been doing this for a while and this setup works for me. So thanks for watching.